everyone, and welcome back to the channel, Say What's Real TV. This review is for Tyler Perry's Sistas, Season 6, Episode 10, The Aftermath. So we open up the episode exactly where we left off last week with Maurice going down to the precinct to talk to Logan and admitting to committing the crime with Q. And he's basically thinking that he's going to walk in there and get locked right up right then. And Logan is like, no, I got questions. So he basically wanted to know who was his co-conspirators. And Maurice was like, it was just him and Q. And he showed him some pictures. Maurice was like, he didn't know who the guys were. And Logan mentioned about the surveillance cameras, told him that he was doing some mighty good acting, screaming and hollering for him to come in here talking about he was part of it. So Maurice, he made sure to tell Logan that Sabrina had nothing to do with it. So Logan brought up the DA and he was going to go talk to her and see what she can come up with. So he leaves Maurice sitting there after putting his hand all on Maurice's shoulder, talking about don't go nowhere. And he finally comes back and tells Maurice that the DA says she'll talk to you if you just come back in the morning. So Maurice wanted to make sure that Logan let the DA know that Sabrina had nothing to do with it. He claimed he told her that he said that or whatever, but who knows. So Logan looked at Maurice like, are you ready for these 15 years that you're facing? Because 15 years is 15 years. So Logan then pretty much offered the same deal that the prosecutor John offered Maurice when he was in jail, the one that had the issue with Andy and the whole divorce thing. So they want him to give up Sabrina and they'll give him a good deal. I guess basically let him go or whatever. But Maurice wasn't having it. He was sticking to his guns and saying Sabrina was innocent. And Logan was telling him, I know you lying, but here's my card. You need to go home and think about it. So why do you guys think that the DA, the prosecutor, Logan, why do they want to pin this on Sabrina so bad? So we get a scene with Aaron calling Pam yet again. Aaron is also driving, and we know that Aaron has been drinking. So he out there drinking and driving, being reckless out there on the streets. So he basically called her to ask her for Karen's customer list, her client list, because he wants to reach out to see which clients would be willing to come and help Karen or help come clean the salon up so Karen can cut down on the cost of her repairs. And Pam was like, they don't like her ass like that. So he was like, and the guys that work in there, I need you to ask them. And Pam, make her jokes about them like they do hair. They ain't trying to do all that manly stuff like that. And Pam was like, well, Zach's supposed to be giving her the money anyway. And Aaron said, well, I don't think he's going to give it to her now, because of the little incident that happened at the house, but he didn't want to get into it. And, Pam wanted to know why, because she missed out on the action. So she said she'll end up sending out this mass email to see who would be willing to come and help. And Aaron wanted them there the next morning at like 7 o'clock. Now I'm trying to figure out, does Aaron still have all this money that I guess I thought that he had? Because when he got the divorce from Fawn, in the settlement, he was giving this lady like buku money. I want to say it was like some millions. And the house, now she's not here, so he should be living in the house because the kid's not even there. So what happened to the house? Is he living in the house? Because quiet as it's kept, Aaron act like he's homeless. He's always riding around in his car or popping up somewhere. So what's going on with that? Now, when him and Zach got into the fight at Karen's house, he had a cleaning crew there, like, I don't know if it was the same day, the next day, whatever it was. He had a whole cleaning crew there cleaning this up. Why can't he have a cleaning crew over here to clean up this salon? Why are you calling clients? Child, the way Karen used to have them clients sitting up in there all day while she frolicking all around town, got somebody else playing in people's head, barely be there, late coming in. Like, no ma'am, no ma'am. Why can't you pay the cleaning people to come clean the salon up if y'all must keep the building? Like, why not just get her a whole new building? You supposedly had all this money. Like, Just go surprise her with a brand new building and have it already set up. And another thing, where you got all these extra hazmat suits from? Like, why you just got hazmat suits laying around? So we go over there to Danny's, and her and Preston, they getting it in, having them a great moment, doing their thing. And they start talking, and she's being honest about how she feels. She says she's glad that he's there. And they talk about her hot girl summer. Danny calls it lukewarm. So Preston asks her, was it worth it? And she says, well, you live and you learn. He said, well, did you learn anything? And she said she learned a lot. So she was like, I'm going to say it again, that I'm really glad that you're here. And he said, look, I'm just glad. I'm just loving all the honesty. So Danny says it's the weed that has her, expressing her feelings the way she is. So she offers something to him, and he was like, no, I'm not here for that. I'm here for you, pointing to the cooch. And he was like, I don't know what that ish is going to do to me. So she's really kind of trying to convince and persuade him to just take one hit, like it's not going to do anything to him if he just do it one little time. And she says all it's going to do is make you relax. So after Danny pretty much kind of guilt tripped him into trying it, he told her he must really love her. So he takes a little puff and damn near chokes off of it. And she was like, well, don't choke because it'll make you higher. And he says, I'm done, because it was really strong. So he was like, well, now what? And she said, well, just relax. So they start, doing their little thing again. Next thing we know with Preston, he had to stop what he was doing because his heart started racing all fast. In his mind, I guess, he started holding his tongue and trying to talk, holding his tongue. Told Danny he needed to go to the hospital because his chest was bleeding. He was having a period on his chest. And she told him that it was sweat. He said it was milk. She was like, oh my God, you're just high. He was like, no, I'm low. Like, Preston was really, really tripping. So she ended up putting some music, country music on for him. He said it was sad. Then he started crying. Danny could barely hold in her laughter, but she just comforted him the whole time because I guess she understood where he was at with it. So she just let him lay there. Poor Preston. So we go over there to Sabrina's, and she's finally out of those clothes. She's relaxing, sipping on some wine, and she gets a phone call, and it's Calvin wanting to know, did she want some company? So she thought about it, and she was like, well, how soon can you get there? And this fool was already outside the door. And I'm like, oh my God. So she goes, lets him in, and then he was like, well, give me credit because at least I called first. Like, no, sir. Like, no. So Sabrina asked Calvin what was he doing there. He never answered the question. He said, oh, so is the African dude here? And I'm like, Calvin, you're in here. Do you see him in here? Because where else would he be in this little one bedroom? You think she's on the sofa chilling and he's in the bedroom, but she gonna let you in? Like, be quiet, Calvin. So he starts apologizing for the little remark, and then she tells him that she's glad that he stopped by because she was trying to watch TV, but it was just too much crime and stuff on the TV. She didn't want to be on the internet or any of that. So that made him happy to know that his instincts were right to stop by. So the two of them, they get to talking about Maurice. So Calvin, he asked her, was she mad? And she told him that she was more sad and hurt, thinking about losing everything, and she didn't have anything to do with what happened. And, he told her everything was going to be all right, and she thanked him for being there for her. And, of course, he told her that, I got you. So they decided they didn't want to watch TV or internet or any of that, so they were going to talk until the sun came up the way they used to do. So she went to telling him a story about pigs in the Bahamas, and so in the midst of that, Calvin leaned in and gave her this comforting kiss, and she was very receptive of it. So then Calvin let her know that everything was going to be all right, and Sabrina thanked him for that. And they just cuddled, and he wanted her to continue on with her story, and she was all misty-eyed, and you could tell she really needed him in that moment. So I'll give Calvin just a tad bit of grace because Sabrina needed him. Now, whether she's going to need him tomorrow or next week when Bayo or whoever pop back up, who knows? So to finish up with Sabrina and Calvin, we see them the next morning laying on a sofa still in their clothes. So apparently they did talk till the sun came up and fell asleep. So she's waking up and they start talking and she's thanking him again. She really appreciates him being there. He tells her again, I got you. So she wants to know what his plans are for the day, and he says he has to go into the office because duty calls. I say, look at Calvin, a hard-working man now. See, that's what I'm talking about. Get your butt up and go to work. That's what I'm talking about. Calvin's so dedicated now, he didn't even have time to wait for Sabrina to go in there and cook breakfast. He was out of there. So Sabrina, she calls Danny and suggests that they go over to Karen's house before they go to work. And I'm like, well, Sabrina, where you working at? I'm confused. But, whatever. So Danny was like, girl, I'm not going over there to get cursed out. Like, that's not what I'm doing. So Sabrina, she begs her. And Danny was like, well, did you call? And then Sabrina says, well, I don't think she should go this time. So Danny does agree that maybe Andy should not go to Karen's house and told Sabrina to give her 30 minutes. So after Danny hangs up with Sabrina, she calls out for Preston. He comes out of her bathroom and he is dressed in Danny's work clothes and his cowboy boots. And it looks like he actually has on makeup or something. And he's standing there waving to her. And Danny is looking like, oh my God, why? What is going on? So apparently Preston is still high as a kite from that weed that Danny gave him the night before. So maybe that's part of the synopsis when Danny says she's made a mistake with Preston because the man is still tripping the next day. Just say no to drugs, you guys. Just say no. Preston was doing so good and got pressured into doing a little hit, the weed pen, messing around with Danny. So that particular scene actually ended the episode, but we're not done yet. So we head over there to Karen's house and she's making a phone call and referring to the person as Doc. So the person is asking her if she has a particular document and she says she may have left it at the office. And they were willing to email her a copy and she told them no, she needs a physical copy anyway, so she'll stop by and pick one up. So what kind of document do you guys think Karen is trying to get a physical copy of? So Karen, she then hangs up and calls Pam to find out where she is. And Pam tells her she's up at the salon cleaning. Of course, Karen doesn't believe that. So Pam then lets her know she's up there cleaning with some of the clients because they know she don't have any insurance and they just trying to help her out. So Karen says, my clients, Pam, like somebody's going to end up getting hurt. Pam tells her no because Aaron is supervising. Karen looked like, she rolls her eyes. For some reason, that Aaron just annoys the hell out of Karen. So she was like, look, I'm on my way up there. And Pam told her, you don't have to come up here. We got this. But of course, Karen is very stubborn and she says she's on her way. So we go over there to Zach and Fatima's, and Fatima, of course, is on her way to work as usual while Zach is in the bed holding her up, want to talk, want to try to get a little action in, all of that all the time. But he's wanting her to admit once again that she was wrong for going to Karen's house. She does admit it, but she tells him she does not regret it and boundaries had to be set. He act like he understood, but he sets none. But that's neither here nor there. So Zach then tells her thank you for believing that he did not have sex with Karen. And Fatima was like, yeah, no problem. I trust you. All the while, we find out later just why she trusted him and why she laughed when Karen actually made the comment. And then he was like, well, what's that all about? She was like, oh, nothing. So Zach, he brings up helping Karen at the salon, and Fatima was acting a little shocked like she hadn't even heard that before. And I was kind of like, Fatima, you were standing right there, but whatever, girl. So he was like, are you cool with that? And she was like, well, if that's what you want to do, like, have at it. And he said, well, look, I'm just going to take Pam a check. I'm not going to talk to anybody. Just drop it off. That's it. And that's all. Now, we already know that's going to go to the left. So we will see what happens with that. Fatima brings up, you probably will have to talk to her if the baby is yours. So it is what it is, I guess. Zach says, well, speaking of babies, what's up with Michael? So Fatima is like, well, the lawyer said, meet there at 9 o'clock at the firm and he'll go over everything. And so Zach wants to know if she's going to be there. And she's like, of course. So they give their goodbyes and their I love yous. And she has to try to run out the door before he starts trying to feel and touch and grab all on her. So we go over there to Hayden's house, and he's coming out of the bedroom hollering and screaming for Tamara with his little sweats on, trying to give us a little peek or something, I guess. And of course, she's not answering. So then he calls her on the cell phone and leave a voice message. I'm like, damn, Tamara must have left like a thief in the night if he didn't hear her leave at all. But it's not like she had much to pack up anyway, because she has only been there like, a couple of days. So Hayden, he gets a knock on the door, and it's Gary. I guess they're supposed to be going on some run, jogging or something. And he was like, okay, let's go. Like, what's up? What's wrong with you? Hayden tells him that Tamara left after he told her about the annulment. And of course, Gary is so insensitive. He's like, well, good, let's go. That's good. It's good that you found out now before you really got into her. And he's like, but I really like her. And Gary's still being like, let's go. And Hayden was like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, you're just projecting because of what you got going on with Andy. So, of course, now Gary makes this whole thing about him. Hayden over there depressed and sad by Tamara, but now Gary turned the whole thing on him and Andy. Talking about she's saying some mean stuff to me, blah, blah, blah. So Hayden had to end up telling him maybe it's because the older women at the job, at the firm, have gotten into Andy's head and been telling her certain things. So now Gary is like, oh, well, that explains some things, and thanks for telling me. So the two of them, they go into their little Andy-Tamara banter back and forth. So come to find out, Gary says, well, come on, let's go. We'll just jog towards where she lives at. And we learned that Hayden doesn't know where she lives. And Gary's like, man, you mean to tell me you married somebody and you don't know where they live? He said, well, at least I know where Andy stay. And Hayden was like, well, yeah, you done paid millions of dollars to keep her there. I'm like, okay. So after all of that, Gary finally convinces Hayden, even though he's still sad and depressed over there, to go for this little run or jog that he wants to go on. So we go over there to the law firm, and Andy tells Fatima she needs to talk to her, and she's talking to her real bossy and bold with like a little attitude. So Fatima gets in the office, and she's like, oh, well, I guess you came early because I needed to talk to you. And Fatima says she was worried about her job. I'm like, girl, she could not have fired you. Andy was like, well, yeah, unfortunately, I can't fire you for your little antics last night. As if to say she wanted to, but she can't. I'm like, Fatima, girl, you better hurry up and get back in school so you can get your law degree, or you need to hurry up and try to find you another job. One of the two, because I don't know about this whole Andy dynamic friendship thing here. So then Andy is like, well, let's be clear. When you left here yesterday, you were all, ready to end things with Zach. And then Fatima went on to say how, Zach laid it all out for her and explained the situation. And she realizes that, yes, he does love Karen, but he loves her more. And Fatima was like, okay, so you fine with that? Cool, whatever. So now here's where Andy starts really inserting herself and being stuck in the middle of things, because now you're prying into their relationship. She wants to know what happened when she got home. Like, why? So she tell her everything was fine. And she was like, oh, so you cool with Karen saying that they had sex at the restaurant? And Fatima had to tell her, girl, please, I had to pay the manager to look at the footage. So, they was fine. I saw they wasn't doing nothing. Like, see, that's what I'm talking about, Fatima. You talk too much. Like, why would you tell Andy that? Like, even after last night, like, y'all didn't even discuss the fact that certain things came up that nobody should have known about because you told one person. So now you're telling her that you actually paid the manager for footage to see what happened at this cafe, which shows that you do not trust Zach, but it's like, I guess you say, trust but verify. So then Andy asked her, what does Zach think about her, going, checking in on him like that. So Fatima tells her, well, he doesn't know about it and he doesn't need to know about it. See, right there is when you should have kept that to yourself. Like, you talk too much. So then Andy was like, well, maybe you should consider. And I guess Fatima thought she was going to say apologize to Karen. And she was like, no, ma'am, I'm not doing that. And she said, no, that's not what I was going to say. She basically was telling her, like, start, thinking before you react to things. So Fatima tells her she's working on her little alter ego and trying to keep her at bay as much as she can. So Fatima asks Andy how was her night. And Andy told her that Gary pissed her off. And now she really don't want to talk about Gary because she know everybody's sick of hearing that. And Fatima said, yeah, I really didn't want to hear about it anyway. I was just asking, but not really. So then Andy shows Fatima her phone and she was like, oh, are you on a dating site? I've never heard of this. And Andy over there talking about, oh, it's very high end and exclusive, blah, 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 like it's all of that in a bag of chips. So Fatima was like, she flipping through the little the pictures and she was like, oh, I know him. Me and my friend dated this one at the same time. And Andy sitting over there looking like, oh, like basically to me judging because she felt like, hell, if Fatima and her friends was talking to him, then she don't need to be talking to him type thing. Like they are beneath her. But you said that this website was high end and exclusive. So then they start questioning that Miss Roberta must have been right, saying that there were no good men out there. And Fatima said, well, she doesn't want her to be right. So Andy says, well, that's easy for you to say because you got Zach. So is Andy really looking at Zach as a prize now? Like he's a prize now that he's with Fatima? Interesting. So Fatima, she starts apologizing to Andy again, and she accepts her apology. They get to talking about Karen and how pissed off she may be and this and that. And Fatima says that she is done. She's done. She's not doing that anymore. She's done. So Andy and Fatima, basically, they tell each other that they love them. They make up. And, Fatima promises not to bring that other side out of her again. And she goes back to work. Andy picks her phone up and starts Xing out all the guys that was on her dating profile that was so high class. And that is the end of the episode. So what did you guys think of tonight's episode? For me, I felt like it was a filler. I didn't think much was going on in it. So hopefully it's just the calm before the storm. Next week, we get the mid-season finale. So drop down below, you guys. Let me know your thoughts on tonight's episode. If you have any predictions for the mid-season finale next week, drop down and put those in the comments as well. As always, you guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.